What's up, guys? We are back again, and we are going to be reviewing another movie today that I personally, I really do like this movie. If you guys have already seen this film, obviously what we're talking about today is Dracula Untold. I never reviewed this movie on the channel. This is before I had the channel, and I really regret not reviewing this movie. Now, again, I know this movie gets backlash, and I know it has a very, from what I've seen, a very good audience and fan base behind it, and I am one of those. And if you guys have never seen this film, first off, if you're a horror fan or a vampire fan or a Dracula fan, definitely give this movie a try. I will say that, give it a try, and you may like it. And I like this film. I really do. I love this film. And the reason why I do is because you got the story of not Dracula, of Vlad the Impaler before he became Dracula or Draculia, the Lord of the Vampires, because this takes place in his country, in Romania, and his country's at peace. But when the Turks come to try to invade, they do the same thing to him as his father, that you have to give this amount of boys up to go to the Sultan's army, and if you don't, we're going to attack. And when he tries to go to his friend that is the king's son to even plead, be like, look, we did this before. I thought this tradition was gone. If you need someone, I will do it. I do not want this tradition to continue. And it doesn't work. The guy doesn't care. And he's just like, I don't care. And we have the one, Muhammad, who is the prince, and he tells Vlad, like, you got this long before, you turn your son and among others to us, because if you don't, then we're going to attack you and we'll take them anyway. And Vlad becomes so desperate that he goes to this unknown cave where soldiers have been killed by this unknown entity, and he does not know nothing about vampires until later on in the movie, and he goes to become this monster, because there's a line in there that's just so great where he says, sometimes what the world needs is not a hero but a monster, and that men do not fear swords, they fear monsters. And I love that line because it's really good, and it really does show back in that time, and even sometimes today, that there are men in the world or people in this world that don't fear this or that. They fear actual monsters that may exist. And I like how that line was written, and I think Luke Evans does such a badass job at portraying Vlad the Impaler, aka Dracula. And he has basically 3 days to not only use his power, but try to resist the urge to drink human blood, because if he does, then this master vampire is going to be free, and then he becomes this monster for the rest of his days. And he has to control it, and he has to keep this secret, because no one really knows that he did this. His wife does find out later on that he made this sacrifice for her, his son, his people, and he goes through this tremendous struggle to resist, because he doesn't want to become this monster. He does not want to become this evil thing, and he does not want to do that. He just wants to protect his family. And when he does this, he fights off like 1,000 Turkish men, and then his castle gets attacked, and then they ran into the hills, and he has no choice but to show his wife later on, like, I have become this monster. And she has to make a promise of, no matter what happens to me, protect our son. And he does, and he makes the ultimate sacrifice of when his people just get slaughtered because of the priests in the church finding out that he's a vampire, or becoming a vampire. Obviously they're going to think, oh, he's the devil and all that, and they turn against him, and that does not help him, especially with what happens in this film, because of him trying to take on this army, this invasion by himself technically. And when this happens, it makes him even worse, and then his wife falls to her death. He tries to save her, he's unable to, and he has no choice but to feed on her so he can go save their son. And then that's when he becomes a full vampire, turns everyone that he can find left alive to go just full on have a vampire attack, during the day covers the sun with clouds because he's that powerful, and taking on the whole entire Turkish army and killing the prince as well by fighting him and then saving his son. And again, this movie's really good. If you guys do not like this movie, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's got a great trailer, it's got a great story, it's got just the way they built upon this was amazing. And it really sucks that there was not a second one, because they did such a good job with the first one, and they could have continued, especially with the way that they ended it, because um, Dracula, aka Vlad, gives up his son to the priest so that way he could become the next king. And he sacrifices himself to die in the sun and kill all the vampires he turns so he can protect his people, what remains of his people, and his son. And when that happens, 1,000 years later, he's in modern era and he comes across the reincarnation of his wife. And they start talking and he recites a poem that she knew, and she remembers, I guess, of that poem, and they start talking. We see the master vampire following him, saying, "Let the games begin." So there was a lot of speculation. Was Vlad the reincarnation of the person, or the master that turned him? So there's been a lot of back and forth of that, and there's been a lot of speculation of what that is, because again, this is only a single movie, and it's always one of those movies that gets really good or is good to the viewer, and then they just get rid of it, and I hate when that happens. And I think that this movie at the time was just so good that a lot of people forget how good it was, and sometimes it gets some crap. I mean, honestly, there were some things in it that I was kind of like, well, then when I go back to it, man, it's just the acting. They did such a great job of the way that they did this, and I really wish that they would go back and try to either not only redo this movie, but try to continue this movie. And who knows, we may get a continuation of this film. We may not, I don't know, but I hope we do. And I really hope that this movie gets a sequel at some point somewhere later on down the line. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But guys, what did you think of Dracula Untold? Was it a good film? Was it a bad film? Was it okay? Either way, let me know your thoughts are about it down in the comments down below. If you guys are enjoying your day or night, wherever you're located, let me know what you guys thought about the video. Let me know what you guys thought about the movie. Leave a like, and as always, I'm seeing you on the very next one.